10 mistakes that are absolutely killing your waves and stopping you from being able to make progress on them. And if you're doing any single one of these mistakes, you're ruining your waves potential. And in this video, I'll be explaining what each of the 10 mistakes are, and there's simple and easy fixes you can do to start seeing real progress on your waves. But before we move on, there's one key thing that all of these 10 mistakes have in common, which is the reason why you struggle to see progress. Which leads us to the first two mistakes that are ruining your waves: not brushing for long enough and not using high quality products. When you brush your hair, what you're doing is that you're putting in the proper time needed to see progress. And here I have 3 cups, and each cup represents a different type of waver. And the amount of water in each cup represents how much time and effort each waver is putting into their waves. This waver barely puts any time into his waves. Think of your 50-year-old uncle who still has a full head of hair and waves while you're already 18, 19 and you're already starting to thin. He isn't really trying to improve his waves, so his results don't really matter. Now the second waver puts in some time and effort into his waves, however, he still isn't making the progress he wants to see. Think of this as your casual or average waver. Now the third waver, however, he's going all in. He's putting as much time and attention and detail into his waves as possible, however, isn't making the progress that he deserves. And if this sounds like you, trust me, I've been there. Let me ask you this question. Would you drink this cup of water? Sure, it has a lot of water in it. The cup's almost full, but the water is dirty. So it's not gonna be refreshing and it's gonna be horrible to drink. And this leads us to the second mistake, which is using low quality products. Although this waver is clearly putting in the time and effort needed to see progress, his water is still dirty and isn't drinkable because of the type of products he's using. Products that contain parabens and sulfates and fragrances, what they do is that they kill your hair health, which makes it even harder to get waves. Now, take a look at this. This cup isn't filled as much as this cup is. However, just because this cup has more water doesn't mean it's gonna be more refreshing. However, this cup right here has less water, but because it's clean, it's way more drinkable. And this is the difference between using low quality products and high quality products that don't contain harmful ingredients. However, there's one thing we can do to lower the line even more, allowing you to put less time into your hair, yet see even more progress. And the way we can lower the line even more is by having a consistent hair care routine. As we just went over, this cup has a lot of water, yet because it's dirty, it's not drinkable. And this is just raw brushwork. Now imagine this clean cup of water. It's drinkable, yet you may need to drink 1 or 2 more glasses to feel fully refreshed. And this represents using the proper products while brushing. Now, let's add a little bit of electrolytes to the water. And what electrolytes do is that because of the salt content, it helps you maintain water and allowing you to feel way more hydrated for much longer. And that's exactly what having a structured hair care routine does. It allows you to spend less time on your waves while allowing you to see more results. And it does this by providing the right mix of brushwork, products, and consistency, which allows you to spend less time on your waves while maximizing your progress. And plus, once you're in the flow of your routine, it won't feel like you're spending much time on your waves at all. And as a literal example, when I was in 12th grade, I would wake up in the morning, brush my hair for around 20 minutes, go to school, do everything. Right when I would come home, I'd do a 45-minute brush session, and that was it. And I had a great social life. I was able to play sports, do everything, and it never felt like waves were in the way of anything. And plus, I was able to make insane progress and become an elite waver. And if you need a structured routine, I already did all the hard work for you and made one. So check the link in the description to sign up for my email list. It's 100% free. And plus, along with the wave routine I'll be sending you wave tips 1 to twice a month to help you accomplish your dream of getting elite waves. But in order to really see and maximize the results of your routine, we need to make sure that you're using the right and proper methods to do so. Let me ask you a question. If you had to drink this entire thing of dirty water that totally isn't Diet Coke and $1 million was on the line, would you use a spoon, a fork, or a straw to do it? Obviously, most of you guys answered with the straw. However, most of you guys are actually using a spoon or even a fork to do it. And that's because you're not taking advantage of the most effective method. And what method am I talking about exactly? Well, that method is the wash and style method. If you've ever watched one of my videos before, you already know how much I love this method. But if you're new, let me explain just how powerful it is. The washing style is single-handedly the best method for getting and improving your waves. You can literally go from 0 waves at all to a full set of 360 waves by just doing one washing style. It's that powerful. And if you already have waves, each time you do a washing style, you can make progress with every single brush stroke. But what if I told you just with one simple change, you can make your washing styles 10 times more effective? And that leads us to mistake number 5, which is not using shampoo bars. Now, let's go back to the cup example. Here we have $1 million on the line to down this cup as fast as possible. But this time, would you still use the straw, or would you drink it straight from the cup? Obviously straight from the cup, it'll be 10 times faster. And that right there is the difference from using a normal shampoo and a shampoo bar. Using a shampoo bar is so much more effective for your waves because of these 3 main things. 1, better lather. Shampoo bars have much thicker lather, which allows you to mold your waves into place as it was clay. And more lather and thicker lather allows you to have way more control over your waves so that you better dictate the progress you want to make. And the second thing is that shampoo bars are typically much healthier for your hair. You see, I don't even have an unnatural shampoo bar to show you, for example, but a lot of those unnatural shampoo bars are the same thing that is making your water and your brushwork dirty. They contain sulfates, fragrances, and parabens that are making your brushwork and your water dirty, which is why I'm currently working on releasing my own shampoo bars. However, because they aren't out yet, I can't link them in the description yet. However, I went ahead and linked the link to my favorite shampoo bars that I'm using from 26 King Wavy. Plus, they went ahead and provided us with a 15% off discount, so I would go ahead and take advantage of that. Now, shampoo bars are great and all. However, there's one more method you can do to make them even more effective and allow you to make progress in all areas of your waves much quicker. Which takes us to mistake 6 and 7. Mistake 7, I just pulled up in the chat. Psych, this isn't an edit. And number 6 is being too scared to wolf. You see, when you wolf, what you're doing is that you're growing your hair long enough to be able to continuously make progress. And this cup right here represents how long your hair needs to be considered wolfing. Any lower than this, and your hair won't be long enough to reach its curl length, and you won't be able to take advantage of the advantages of wolfing. However, if I go ahead and I pour even more Diet Coke into this cup, and I pour it so much that it starts to overfill, now you're over wolfing, because this cup right here, the entirety of the cup represents how long your hair is able to be until you're over wolfing and you're no longer seeing the benefits. So how do you wolf? All wolfing is simply allowing your hair to grow long enough to reach its curl length and go beyond that. And in order to wolf, what you need to do is stop cutting your hair down so frequently. So next time you go to the barber, instead of getting a haircut and cutting down your waves and everything, what you're doing is you're making your cut so low that you're not able to really progress at all, because you need a certain amount of hair in your head to make progress. So what you do is you go ahead and say no, and instead every 6 to 8 weeks cut your hair, and that should be enough time to have a sufficient enough wolf to really maximize your result. Literally everything in waves is multiplied when you're wolfing. The washer style method, even more effective with the more hair in your head. Like literally everything. Able to use hard brushes, which are way better for making progress than soft brushes. Everything is amplified. You're able to comb. Literally every single wave method you can think of is made better with wolfing. And now that you know the importance of wolfing, you need to make sure that you're not making this next mistake, because elite wavers like myself and literally almost every single elite waver I know keep on making this mistake for some reason, which I just don't understand why. And that next mistake is cutting your hair way too low. As we just went over, when we're wolfing, what we're doing is allowing our hair to grow long enough to be beyond our curl length and experience a bunch of benefits for every single wave method that we can possibly do. But when we go ahead and finally get that haircut to cut down the wolf and really truly see all the results, what a lot of elite wavers end up doing is cutting their wolf way too low. And now their hair is way below their curl length, and they end up just cutting off progress. Plus, you have to wait weeks to be able to start wolfing again, to be able to start seeing that progress again. And that's basically the equivalent of me just cutting this cup in half. So now if we just go ahead and cut this cup, we can't really add any more water or any more progress even if we try. So how low should you be cutting your hair? Well, it all comes down to your individual curl type. Now here on screen is a hair type chart. And as you can see, 2B and beyond, you can't really get waves. So we're really just focusing on the 3s and the 4s. Now, generally speaking, the kinkier and curlier your hair is, the lower you can cut your hair down, because that's the lower your curl length is. And what your curl length is the minimum length your hair needs to be in order to start curling. And that's why somebody with like 1C hair can't really get waves, because their hair has to be way longer than their like body in order to curl. So, and waves are laid down curls. So if you can't get curls, you can't get waves, which is why you shouldn't really be cutting below your curl length, because you're cutting below your hair can make curls, so you can't really make any more waves, if that makes any sense. However, as a general rule of thumb, I'm just gonna give you what I recommend each texture should cut down to. If you have 3A to 3C hair, I recommend cutting between a 2 to a 2.5 with the grain. And if you have 4A hair like myself, I think like a 2 guard open is like ideal. If you have 4B hair, I recommend just a straight up 2 guard close. And if you have 4C hair, this is the exception. You can't get away with getting that 1.5 guard open, but it's really just up to you. You know your hair the best, and different type of clippers and different type of guards can influence a little bit. So this is just a general rule of thumb, but use this as a guideline for going forward with your haircuts. Doing this will allow you to cut your hair right to your curl length, which will allow your haircuts to look good. Because if you cut your hair too high, it doesn't really look like you have good wolf results. But cutting to your curl length is the absolute perfect place you can cut to. Your hair still looks good. Plus you can just, in another week or so, you can jump back into wolfing and making that sweet, sweet progress. You see this cup? This is a waver who's doing everything right. Putting in the proper amount of brush work, his water is clean, he's doing his routine. But one day, this waver decides to go ahead and rinse his hair out. And watch what happens to his progress. It's gone. As we just went over, waves are laid down curls. And the one way you can get your curls to stand up and not lay down at all is by getting it wet. Water is the enemy of waves, and when you rinse your hair out, you're just completely getting rid of your waves. Plus, rinsing your hair out isn't that good for your hair care and your hair health. So next time you go take a shower or you see it's about to rain, do yourself a favor and at least put on your do-rag and a shower cap. This way, your hair is laid down and protected from the moisture. And that way, you'll be able to take a nice hot shower in peace. Which takes us to mistake number 9, which is overusing products. You see this nice refreshing glass of clean water with a little bit of electrolyte sprinkled in there, so it's even more hydrating. What if we just keep pouring and keep pouring and keep pouring and keep pouring, and we pour all the way until it can't fit, and boom, now we've made a big mess that I have to clean up. This is what you're doing when you're overusing products. You're turning a great, good, amazing thing into a bad thing. It doesn't matter if you're using the highest quality products possible. It doesn't matter if you're getting your products from the end of a wave leprechaun's rainbow and you go in their pot and they have gold pomade and all this stuff, 100% natural, amazing ingredients that's gonna make you start flying. If you go ahead and you use that too much, you're gonna end up getting product buildup. Your hair is gonna end up sinking. You're just gonna reverse the effects of products. It doesn't matter if you use low quality products. It doesn't matter if you use high quality products. Product buildup will still persist. Overusing products is a wave equivalent of not using deodorant. It's kind of nasty. This is why it's so important that you stick to a consistent wave and hair care routine. However, not all products are made equal. For example, these are the main type of products most wavers use: your shampoo, pomade, moisturizers, and oils. By far the worst type of products to use every single day is your shampoos. Even if you use a healthy shampoo, if you go ahead and use it every single day, what you're doing is stripping out all the moisture and everything from your hair over and over again. And especially if you have curly hair, and you do because you're a waver, this is just a no-no. You should really be washing your hair once a week, but because you're a waver, most twice, maybe 3 times, but stick to 1 or 2 times a week. However, if we go ahead and look at pomades, for example, it's not as bad as using shampoos, obviously, but you really should only stick to using these 2 times a week. Maybe if you're going out, put a little bit of pomade, or maybe if you just need a little bit more hold in your hair or something. But using this every single day, I would consider this the worst type of product to use a bunch because it's so sticky, and especially if you use any type of unnatural, pomades with a lot of petroleum and stuff like that, it's gonna get sticky. Now here I have a moisturizer. Now most moisturizers it's a little bit more of a niche product, so a lot of the times they're a little bit more healthy for your hair, but you really don't need to be using it more than 3 times a week max. Sometimes you just need to add a little bit of moisture to your hair. Recommend doing it after your washing styles and maybe 1 time in the middle. So 3 times a week is pretty good, but if you move into 4 or 5 times a week territory, your hair is going to start to stink of product buildup. However, there is one product that you can use every single day that only helps you almost the more you use it, and that product is normal wave oil. You see, the thing with wave oil is that if you use an all-natural light oil, there is a difference between using a penetrative oil and a sealant oil. I would put the sealant oils more in the moisturizer, more in the pomade category. It'd probably be right in between, but I don't really use those because you can just use butter or something instead, or pomade. However, penetrative oils, they often have a lot of good ingredients that have great effects on your hair health in general. There's oils that have DHT blockers like pumpkin seed and saw palmetto, which you can go ahead and use on your hairline every single day. There's oils will just have your hair smelling better and might even help mask a little bit of product buildup. So you are allowed to use oils every single day, but make sure it's an all natural one, like this one from 26K Wavy. Which leads us to mistake number 10, which is not protecting your hair with the right type of do-rag. If you're someone who's on top of everything, then you probably fill your water bottle up at night before you go to work or school. This definitely isn't me, but bear with me. However, you wouldn't fill your water bottle up without the cap and just leave it exposed, right? Because if you do, bugs and dust and who knows what can potentially get into your water bottle, contaminating the whole thing. And the same exact thing happens when you go to sleep without protecting your waves. Putting your do-rag on before you go to sleep at night needs to be more important than brushing your teeth at night. And don't put on just any do-rag at night. Make sure that you're putting on a high quality silky do-rag. Because when you use a low quality do-rag, 2 things can happen. 1, the straps can be too thin, and when you tie that on, it just gives you a headache and your hair can't even lay down and get compressed correctly, so you just take it off anyways. And number 2, you're using a do-rag with the wrong type of material, like a velvet do-rag or a cotton do-rag, which just ends up absorbing the moisture. A do-rag is supposed to do 3 things. A, make sure your hair is laid down and compressed. B, make sure that the moisture from the products you're putting in is in there and sealed and locked in. And 3, allow you to get amazing results and save your progress. And the silky do-rag is the only do-rag that's able to accomplish all 3 of those things. And because it can be quite hard to find, I went ahead and linked this along with all the other products I used as an example in the video in the description, all for 15% off. So now that you know how to fix the 10 mistakes that were killing your waves, it's important that you put all of this into a routine so you can implement it and actually see change. So I went ahead and did all the hard work for you again by doing that routine, making a video on it, and doing it in real time. So watch this video next to see exactly how you do that. Thanks for watching. God bless.